Hello, gentle listeners, and welcome to Coffee and Tequila, the show for those who love storytelling and stories, or stories and
A
storytelling.
little mixed up there, but it's
Yes.
okay. It's okay. My name is Zach.
And I'm Alastair.
And as always, this episode is kindly being sponsored by Helix Sleep. He's trying to find like a little thing. He's trying to find his thing.
I kind of like if we do like, my name is Zach, and I'm Alastair, and this is, and we say it
I
together.
think we should do a little
Coffee and
sing along.
Tequila?
It should be like a musical.
Coffee and Tequila.
It should be like once more with feeling something.
Like WandaVision.
Oh, coffee and tequila with Alastair and Zach.
Ding.
We do have a morning show for you guys today. We're gonna kind of switch it up a little bit and do the hot topics at the end because we're gonna be covering the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It's pretty heavy. It's gonna be a heavy topic, so it's gonna take up the bulk of the episode, I feel like, and so we're just gonna put that at the end. We'll start with something light, things we've watched over the weekend, and check in with you guys. And how are you doing this morning? How are you doing this Monday morning? Is it going good? Is it going well? You doing okay? I hope your week is starting out all right. The finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi seemed to have like just come up on us. I feel like that show was seriously like 2 weeks long.
It was weird because it was like, it felt anticlimactic to me.
Yes.
Like, I felt like there should have been more generated excitement over an Obi-Wan show, especially the conclusion of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel it.
Well, I also think that it should have been a movie. Even if they just released it on Disney Plus or something, either theaters or Disney Plus, however they wanted to do it, it felt more like a movie, and it felt like, I think even Ewan McGregor said it's like a movie that's just split up into a bunch of parts. I'd have been fine with just a movie.
I wonder if it was
think
written as a movie
was,
and they're like, make it a 6-episode
I just
thing.
don't know why it didn't. I don't know. It was weird. It was just a weird, like, sort of thing that was out there. I had a lot of anticipation for it. That being said, I did really love
The actual one?
the finale of it.
Well,
Yeah.
I loved the chemistry, the communication between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And I haven't been really into the cinematography for the Obi-Wan show. However, I loved, obviously spoilers if you're listening to this, when Obi-Wan cuts... slashes through
his helmet.
through his helmet.
Yeah.
And whenever you see the blue side, it's almost like you're seeing Anakin, and then the red side is
And then
Darth
it like
Vader.
shifts into red. That was a really, really
that
cool
was
shot.
cool.
It was
That was
very
really
cool.
cool.
So the whole Darth Vader and Obi-Wan storyline, that's what I'm really here for, right? We all love that. We all, especially us millennials who really grew up with that story, with the prequels, right?
Yeah.
I have to say, unpopular opinion, right? Because the original 3 movies are so like revered. The prequels are my movies. You know, I don't like the original ones as much as I like the prequels.
I don't even think you watched the
And,
originals until I made you watch the originals.
I had seen them, but I know I'd fallen asleep during every single one, and they're not my movies. And I love Obi-Wan, I love Anakin, and I think they just did it. I'm so glad they brought Hayden Christensen back, and we got to see him as Darth Vader, right?
This is 20 years after they were like training hard, to doing all of these stunts, and now they're doing the same. Well, they're doing it again now, and it's curious because like Hayden Christensen has to adjust how he fights.
Yeah.
Well,
so this is the problem I have with this original trilogy, right? Is that obviously that is what started everything, and so they weren't really thinking, 30 years ahead and how the fighting style was going to be and stuff like that. So I just keep thinking about their final battle in that first movie where they're just both like zoom, 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 and just like flicking the wrist basically. That's basically their fighting style now. And I much prefer the more dramatic, flamboyant fighting style.
I think that we needed to move on to other Star Wars stories. And I'm just glad that we're finally getting more lightsabers in Star Wars because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for lightsaber battles. Thank you very much.
I'm like half on like, let's move on to other Star Wars stories, right? Every time they like bring up a solo story or anything like that, I'm like, let's just move on, give us new characters. But with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin, I'm like, we still got a few more years before they meet up. They have that final battle, and Obi-Wan's gone.
Oh, you're saying redo it?
No. I'm saying fill in the gap. I want the rest of it. I want 10 more years of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Well, people have been pretty like back and forth on whether they really like it because. I guess it retcons a lot of like stuff that happened. Yeah. Well, because Leia, talked about how she remembered her mother, and Then she called him Obi-Wan Kenobi when she'd only really referred to him as Ben in the show. There's a lot of
That's
stuff.
okay, though. I think that's
you could
fine.
really go down the rabbit hole of criticism. But I feel like Star Wars, and I hope this doesn't get in any Star Wars
It's going
place,
to.
but a lot of the Star Wars, I guess, fandom can be considered toxic, allegedly.
Oh gosh, but all fandoms can. It's just you have
Not all
fans who
fandom.
just do too much, right?
I've heard that the Doctor Who fandom is super not toxic, and I would say the Buffy fandom isn't toxic.
The Buffy fandom is toxic.
I
There
don't
is
think the
such
Buffy
a
fandom is
toxic
toxic.
section of the Buffy fandom. It just is with every fandom. I won't accept that. I have seen toxic Buffy fans.
Yes,
especially
but
when you
there's
talk about
a
Spike
level of
or
toxicity.
Angel. Whatever.
know.
We also saw it was good, and then also I love Reva. I want more of her. I know she got a lot of criticism for. She
think
got a lot
she
of hate.
acted her butt off.
I think she was
Yes.
one of the more interesting characters that was actually introduced in this because we saw the Gray Jedi basically, right? I thought her whole arc was pretty good. You know, we understood her motive, we understood the anger and the rage inside of her, and that can turn you to the dark side. But you know, there was still that goodness in her. That is just classic Star Wars, you know. And I am ready for a Gray Jedi, and I think she could be it. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. They're going to come back with the season 2. Come on now, they have to.
You think so, or do you think that they're just going to do a spinoff? I try to look up to see if they've announced anything, but it doesn't look like they've announced.
I don't know. Like Mandalorian's getting a bunch of spinoffs, right? It's just getting tons of spinoffs, and so I don't know if Kenobi's going to get any. There's too much. Simplify your Star Wars a little bit, okay? There's a little bit of too much everywhere.
Well, yeah, but they definitely want to capitalize on the franchise.
We did see Elvis this weekend, also.
Yes.
What did you think?
I think I actually liked it more than you
Elvis?
did. I think. Oh gosh, what's the name of the actor?
I've been so excited to see this damn movie. While you figure that out, I've been so excited to see this damn movie. Every time the trailer comes on, I make sure to like tell him to quit talking to me or face the screen or something because I have to like give it all of my attention. And so I've been so excited, so stoked to see this movie. And then
I have not been.
yeah, he rolls his eyes at everything. I had to basically drag him to the damn theater to watch this movie.
Austin Butler. I thought Austin Butler did a great job when he was first cast as Elvis. All I knew him from was Glee, and that was like
Which is so weird to me. I didn't even know he was in Glee. I know him from Zoe 101. He was in Zoe 101.
I didn't watch Zoe 101.
Well, there you go.
But I watched some Glee, and I knew him from Glee, and I thought he was terribly miscast. But you know, I stand corrected. I thought he did an amazing job.
Phenomenal, man.
I feel like it's Oscar nominative worthy.
Well, it's the Bohemian Rhapsody thing, right? Like it's like we've got music biopics now, you know, that are like coming, you know, aplenty. I do think this absolutely will get nominated. He will get nominated for a Golden Globe. Absolutely. I have a lot of faith that he'll get nominated for an Oscar. I don't know if he'll win.
I don't think he will
because we're just having a lot of music biopics and like. You just can't let somebody like you know the lead in a music biopic win every single year, right? I don't think they would do that. Just the politics of it, but I think he absolutely is deserving of an Oscar of this one. He was so good, y'all. He was so good.
Yes.
In this movie, like a complete transformation. It's a little cringy and a little annoying watching him do the interviews and he's doing the Elvis voice and like
I haven't because I've heard it is very cringy
it's just
and annoying.
like, but
so
that's
I've just stayed away from it.
That's studio heads telling him how to like he's getting media training right and what to
You
say
would
and
hope
how to
so.
act and I that's what I assume is going on there. But I for the most part have like stayed away from that and it's just like it is such a phenomenal performance. I think most of the people in this do a phenomenal job in their performing. Tom Hanks stars as Colonel Tom Parker, and I mean, if you just know the whole Elvis Tom Parker story already, it's already an interesting setup.
But we hear the story a lot about these managers really taking advantage, of especially in the music industry, right?
Well, that's the way the movie's framed. Olivia DeJonge was like okay as Priscilla. I don't think she was bad as Priscilla. As much as I don't think Priscilla was written the right way in this movie or portrayed the right way in this movie.
So I will say shout out to whoever did her hair.
Yeah, perfect.
Really great hair.
Lana Del Rey did her hair.
I thought she was a little miscast. I thought we could have gone with Lana Del Rey.
Well, but no.
Why?
Because I just don't think Lana Del Rey fits her now. I don't think so.
And I disagree now. I think that's fine.
Okay. We can
that's
disagree
fine,
on that. We can disagree on that. I think if this movie had been made maybe 5 years ago, I think Lana Del Rey could have done it. But especially with as much screen time as Priscilla has, I think Lana Del Rey could have pulled that off because there's not much of it. But I was expecting a lot more Priscilla because Priscilla had a big role in Elvis's life. Okay, let's go into the story a little bit, right? The story is really framed through Colonel Tom Parker, right? We open with him in the hospital, and he, is running around casinos in his hospital dress, and he is kind of recalling the story of his and Elvis's relationship. And I didn't expect them to go like that with the story, right? I think there was a lot of different angles that they could have
frame it.
Interesting, different. There's a lot of different ways that they could have gone with it. This wasn't my favorite way that they went with it, right? I was expecting a little bit more straightforward music biopic, and I appreciate that Baz Luhrmann, went a different direction with it. I appreciate that. I don't know if I liked that. I think
if you got Tom Hanks, you got to use him.
I guess, but if you have Austin Butler as Elvis Presley, got to use him.
I mean, they did.
It's just there was a lot of. I noticed. This is a 2 hour and 40-minute movie, right? It's you look at the time and it's a little daunting, to be honest. But I didn't think that they utilized most of it in the way that they could have. I think this is the thing about biopics, is that when you have somebody with such an expansive career like Elvis, it's hard to really do the whole thing in one sitting, whereas you kind of need to just isolate it to a certain time. And I feel like in the movie, when they get to the Vegas years, that's where the movie really starts to shine and where it really is put together in such an excellent way. And I was so just invested.
Which is interesting because I think that's where it lost me a little bit.
Interesting.
I didn't like the Vegas years as much as the whole setup. But like you're talking about making it kind of like Judy was, where they focused on her last concert series.
I mean, in the Vegas years were years, right? It was the longer period of time still, but it's just I would have isolated it to that, because we go from his childhood, we go into his start and how he meets Colonel Tom Parker, which all makes sense with the way that they're framing this entire story, right? But the beginning half, the beginning hour of the movie just feels like one long montage scene, and I don't know if I enjoyed that because there was just so much that we were missing. I feel like they left out a bunch of stuff, and they left out too much and omitted too much information. And if you're doing a full story of his life in one movie, that's information that we did need. Because let's be real, Elvis was not the best guy. He just wasn't. He's an icon, absolutely icon. He was a trailblazer. He did stuff, right? He has a legacy for a reason. I think he's inducted into 5 halls of fames, but he wasn't the greatest of dudes. I think Priscilla was 13 or 14 when they met and got into a relationship, and he was in the freaking military. He was old enough to be in the damn military. He was 20-something years old, and they don't talk about that. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how shitty he was to Priscilla and how kind of toxic that relationship was. That the fact that he would keep her, in a dark bedroom with the TV on. And
well, maybe we should do a Priscilla episode at some point.
I do love Priscilla very much. I think she was an integral part in Elvis's not career, but his life,
his legacy,
life and legacy, because she was a big deal when he passed. He had debt. He had his estate was not in the greatest spot, and they were going to have to sell off Graceland. They were very close to doing that, and it's Priscilla who really took it upon herself to rehab this whole thing. Obviously she had people helping her, and it wasn't just her doing it, but she really took the reins and was really out there promoting the estate and promoting this legacy, and getting these songs in all of these different places. She had a very heavy hand in doing that, and she had this young daughter that she had to support, and it could have been very easy for her to be one of those parents who, because she was executor of this estate or whatever. She was handling the estate until Lisa Marie turned a certain age, and she could have very much drained a bunch of that money, kept a lot of that money for herself, really abused the role that she had before Lisa Marie turned 18. But when Lisa Marie took over her part of the estate, it was pretty well set up because of Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley did a damn good job, and I don't feel like they did her they didn't do her dirty. I think that she was still really good in this movie, right? Like, I still think that she came off really caring, really kind, really like wonderful. But we just didn't get nearly enough of Priscilla in this movie.
And her story.
Yes, I think that was one of my biggest points of contention with this, is that we didn't get. This is not an Elvis and Priscilla movie. It's just not. She comes in, very quick scenes.
Yeah, it's more about him and his manager.
Yeah,
and it's very much told in like third person, where we're seeing Elvis, through the manager's eyes, and not necessarily through Elvis's perspective.
Yeah,
which I actually really liked, because I didn't want to be inside Elvis's head. I wanted to be a viewer.
And it's always weird doing that too, right? Is like being in a dead guy's head when we don't really know what he was thinking.
Yes.
We know what,
I mean, they're both gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I feel like he had more time on this. Colonel Tom Parker had more. Why am I calling him Colonel anyway? I said Tom Parker had more time on this earth to kind of give his side of the story anyway.
Yes.
And Elvis didn't really, because he died, he out of nowhere. Nobody, he didn't expect to die, right? So he didn't go out and write an autobiography before he died. I didn't mind it being framed from Tom Parker's. At first, I was like, I don't know if I like that. I think I told you I wasn't sure if I liked that, but I wasn't. Like, sitting here now, I don't think I have that much of a problem with it being framed kind of from his perspective and about more of their business relationship. I think if they were going to do that, though, I wish they would have just made it a little bit more isolated about that business relationship, right? Because then we start introducing all of this other stuff, and it doesn't really go anywhere, because it just is not the framework of the story, right? Like, Elvis's ties to the music at the time that black people were, coming up with. Black people were coming up with that music, and they were, the blues and all of that sort of music. They were really pioneering that. And then you have Elvis, who came in and was like, that's
profiting off of it.
Well, and not in I don't believe in a malicious way.
I
think he was that's the music that he grew up with, and that's the music that he was interested in doing. Yeah. But he did get the credit for that music, and I think they kind of touch on that in this movie. There are definitely scenes for that, but then again,
they don't delve into it.
Well, that's not what the movie's about, right? Yeah. So then they kind of quickly move on. We move on really quickly in this movie from these different elements, like the Priscilla thing, the music thing, And I just wish, I think they would have. I would have loved it so much more if it had just been isolated to the Vegas years. I'd have been perfectly okay with that, with a lot of callbacks, maybe some flashback scenes, stuff like that. Even I think one of my favorites. I'm talking a lot, man. I'm sorry. I was very excited for this movie, and I still give it a 4 out of 5. I still loved it. I love Baz Luhrmann. Yeah. I love his movies. Romeo and Juliet, Moulin Rouge, Great Gatsby. Those are all. I love his style, and I loved hearing that he was going to be doing an Elvis movie. And I think his style is perfectly fit this movie. It was so good.
And that's why I was worried, because I do not like Romeo and Juliet at all. Oh,
but you liked the Great Gatsby.
I did like Great Gatsby, so I think Great Gatsby was but sometimes you can do one thing right.
Yeah, I haven't shown him Moulin Rouge yet, so we're still going to go into that one. I
feel like I have seen it at some point with my mom, but I don't yet remember it.
What about Australia with Nicole Kidman and Hugh
Jackman? I have seen Australia.
Okay, he did that one too.
I really wanted to. I didn't like it, but I really wanted to like it because I love Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
and I love Nicole Kidman.
Yeah,
she's basically the patron, saint of AMC.
I get. Oh, absolutely. I wish we had that for the Alamo Draft House. Just move it over to the Alamo Draft House, because that's where we go to our movies.
She needs to do it for every theater.
I just think Baz's style really worked for Elvis. I really liked it in Elvis. I think it was just the story that kind of got me. But there was my favorite scene in this was when they covered the '68 comeback special, because that is one of my favorite television specials of all time. I have watched that special.
You made me watch it when we got home,
and I was like, "Listen, I got to show you when he." Because let me tell you, he was hot in that special, in the leather suit, and his hair. He was he always had this tan that was just like worked for him. He had this pout.
Well,
and
I forgot how attractive he was until the end, and they start showing pictures, like old pictures of him, and I was like, oh my gosh, he was actually a good-looking guy. Because I always think of him as like my mom's generation. My mom had a big crush on him, so it was weird to think of somebody like that.
They introduced the girls and their crushes on him pretty quickly, and we get a lot of pelvic thrusting and close-ups on the pelvic thrust. I was feeling that. Me too. I was like, I'm feeling it. I was like,
and you have the men looking around like, why are they acting like this? And then they put him in jail.
Austin Butler's pelvic thrusting was A+, Oscar worthy, man, Oscar worthy. The 68 comeback special was one of my favorite specials of all time, and I made you watch when we got home, I Can't Help Falling in Love with You from that special. And it's a little bit faster. It's not really a slowed down song, but it's one of my favorites. And so I was really glad they covered that. I didn't know too much about the history of that comeback special either, so I wonder how accurate that actually is, because it doesn't seem
probably more accurate than not, I guess. Would be my guess.
But like on one side of the studio, did they have a whole Christmas setup, or was that just like for dramatic effect?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to
do a little bit of research.
Yeah, do a little bit of research.
I've never been the biggest Elvis stan. I'm not really an Elvis stan. I've never really liked his music all that much. So I'm not,
But
you're well versed. I just pop culture in general. I think I'm like, yeah.
But Zachary, you're such a hunka burning love.
So stupid, man. Great movie though. I'd highly recommend it. I am gonna watch it again. 4 out of 5 for me. What would you give it?
I would give it a 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Wait, that's
4 out of 5.
I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Wait,
that's a 4 out of 5.
8.5 out of 10.
What are you doing here? What are we doing?
I don't know. I don't
know. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll go to ad break really quick. We don't really have anything else to talk about as far as what we've watched. But
I don't think so.
When we come back from the break, it's going to get a little bit heavy. We're going to talk about the overturning of Roe v. Wade from the Supreme Court, and basically go from there. We're going to kind of just like let it trail and see where we go with that. So, yes. But first, a word from our sponsor. Now it's time to tell you all a little bit about our sponsor for today's episode, Helix Sleep. Helix is a premium mattress and a box company that makes beds to fit your unique sleep style. Do you know what Obi-Wan Kenobi wishes he had in his little cave that he's been living in?
A Helix Sleep.
Actually, you know what? There was a box in the episode when he left the cave, and I'm pretty sure that was a Helix Sleep box.
Did he send it to him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. We gifted Obi-Wan Kenobi a Helix Sleep mattress and a galaxy far, far away. He's got the mattress, the pillows, the
whole
bedding,
ensemble.
The whole ensemble, everything that we have. We have a king size Helix mattress that we absolutely love. So we know that Obi-Wan Kenobi's gonna love it too. In between his little lightsaber battles, Helix knows that everybody is different and everybody has their own unique needs, and so they've made a sleep quiz that'll match you with your perfect mattress based on your needs. I am an all-over sleeper. Alastair is more of a side sleeper. He likes a firm mattress. I like, more medium. We took the quiz together, and we got the Midnight Mattress. And one of the best parts about Helix is that they deliver the mattress right to your door for free. It comes rolled up in a box and is super easy to set up yourself. And if it makes you nervous to buy something online that you haven't tried, Helix has a 100-night sleep trial, so you get more than 3 months to make sure that you absolutely love it. And if you don't, they'll pick it up for you and you'll get a full refund. Well, if you or anybody you know is in the market for a new mattress, you think that Helix sounds right for you, you can go to helixsleep.com/tequila, where you can get up to $200 off of your mattress and 2 free pillows. And we're back, y'all.
Hello.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into something a little bit heavy. Just go ahead and get into it, I guess, right? On Friday, if you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock or off isolated in the woods and just got back to the internet, on Friday the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey with a 5-4 ruling. So you usually see the headlines mentioning Roe v. Wade, but I haven't seen a whole lot mentioning Planned Parenthood v. Casey, so I didn't know a whole lot about that one. I knew more about Roe v. Wade. And so I did have to do a little bit of deep diving just for this recording to make sure that I knew all my stuff. I knew basically
you had the context right,
what these were, right? And I knew what Roe v. Wade was, but I really didn't know what Planned Parenthood v. Casey was. But they both were overturned. So we're gonna do a quick, just like not really a history lesson, but like a bulleted point of what each of these cases were and what they meant. So Roe v. Wade In 1969, Norma McCorvey was living in Texas and was pregnant with her third child. She wanted an abortion, but it was obviously illegal in Texas at the time. McCorvey filed a lawsuit against her local district attorney, Henry Wade, and the ruling came out in McCorvey's favor. And they basically said that banning her from getting an abortion violated her right to privacy, which is, I feel like, pretty progressive for Texas. At the same time, however, they didn't grant an injunction against enforcing the law, so it didn't really help her at all anyway. She couldn't get an abortion. She had to have the baby, and Henry Wade was still prosecuting those participating in abortions. So both sides appealed the decision, and it goes up to the Supreme Court. And in 1973, so it takes a long time in court, right? So in 1973, the court ruled 7-2 that a woman having an abortion went along with her right to privacy. So they do establish a pregnancy trimester table. And so in the first trimester, the government cannot regulate at all, except that abortions have to be performed by licensed physicians. Sorry, the words are going to get me, man, the big words. The second trimester, you can regulate some for the purpose of protecting the mother and her health, but nothing outside of that. And then third trimester and onwards allows for some regulation, but there has to be instances where it would be allowed if the mother's life was
In danger?
In danger, right? So it's basically they're going with fetus viability, and fetus viability is like if the baby is able to survive outside of the womb on its own.
Which changes over time, doesn't it?
It does change over time, and it changes with the next one, too. So Planned Parenthood v. Casey, this case came up because there were 5 provisions being challenged that were a part of the Pennsylvania Abortion Control Act of 1882. 1982. And
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, basically. There was 5 provisions being challenged within this whole act. Number 1, informed consent. So a doctor has to inform the patient about everything involving the procedure, the risks, everything, so that the patient can make an informed decision. And this has to be at least 24 hours before the abortion is performed. Number 2, a woman has to notify her husband. Number 3, minors had to get informed consent from a parental guardian. Number 4, medical emergency definition. So they had outlined a definition for a medical emergency. Number 5, reporting and record keeping were mandated onto places providing abortion, so they had to keep records and do reporting.
Kind of violates the right of privacy, doesn't it?
Sounds
a little bit like that. Yeah.
Sounds like it to me, yeah. So basically, the Supreme Court upholds that abortion went along with the woman's right to privacy. They did overturn the trimester guidelines because of new scientific findings since Roe v. Wade. I mean, there's a good deal of time there. This was what, 1992? 1992, yes. And there's new scientific findings concerning fetus viability. In essence, they're recognizing the patient's right to privacy, and they're also recognizing the state's interest in potential life. So regulations just can't be a substantial obstacle for somebody wanting to get an abortion. But it basically upheld Roe v. Wade, right? And so now on Friday, the Supreme Court ruled on Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. This is a women's health organization out of Mississippi. So in 2018, Mississippi passes the Gestational Age Act. It's signed by the governor and all, which basically bans abortions after the first 15 weeks. And the lower court in Mississippi says that they rule that there would be no enforcing of the Gestational Age Act. We're not going to do that. It goes against what we've got in place already. But it goes up to the Supreme Court, obviously, because of the appeals process. And remember, this is back 2018, so it's taken a long time. And just Friday, the Supreme Court reverses the lower court's decision by 6-3. And this leads to the 5-4 vote overturning Roe and Casey, both of those cases, with a majority opinion that abortion was not a constitutional right, and states should be in charge of their own abortion regulations. So,
which is interesting because a lot of states were also passing the heartbeat bills in the last couple of years. Texas comes to mind when you think about that, and it's them continually challenging this because they know that now that on the conservative side, they have a majority on the Supreme Court and are able to do this.
Mm-hmm. Y'all remember when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, right? And Trump put Amy Coney Barrett into the Supreme Court. She was appointed to the Supreme Court, and as soon as that happened, a bunch of states really started putting together legislation because they already knew this was coming, right? So they put together a bunch of legislation, and as soon as this came down on Friday, almost immediately, there's like a handful of states, like 11 states, 20 states who were involved in, some sort of legislation, but they're like Texas, especially since we're living in Texas, almost immediately it became illegal in Texas to have an
because
abortion.
they had the trigger laws. I think
Trigger
that's what
laws, yeah, they were ready.
So they had laws already set in place that if it got overturned,
Yes.
the laws come into effect. Mm-hmm. And this morning I was talking to my sister, and she was crying. I was on the phone with her, and she was like crying and talking about how this affects other women. And I have 3 sisters, all of which live in Texas.
Yeah.
And I keep on thinking of them when I think about the fact that a woman can't make this choice anymore. Well, I just find it interesting that it's backed up by the right to privacy, and there isn't anywhere we can say a right to your own self,
Yeah.
And it comes down to like we talked about the property thing before when it comes to your own bodily acts, but like for the Planned Parenthood versus what was it? Planned Parenthood versus
Casey.
For Planned Parenthood versus Casey, when they talked about the fact that you have to get consent from your husband to be able to do it, that takes away the right to your body.
It wasn't going along with your right to privacy and your own bodily autonomy, right?
That was struck down, and I think they highlighted privacy again with that. But this
it's a major step back.
It's a major step back, and it sets a precedent for what's going to happen next, and what it means to be a woman living in certain states, and whether you have access to health care, whether you are able to get time off to go to a different state, whether you're gonna get legal charges pressed against you for trying to pursue an abortion or anything like an abortion, and it's mind-boggling at this point.
It's just the amount of people that are going to get arrested now, right? There's going to be a lot of people getting arrested because they're going to try to perform their own abortions on themselves. We're going back into those dark ages where people were doing co-hanger abortions in their closet in the upstairs guest room, right?
Yes.
Like we're going to have a lot of that. We're going to have people going to the hospital because they botched that abortion, or they're getting back alley abortions and they're risking their lives. Like that's what we were talking about already in those decisions is that you can only regulate if it's like a risk to the woman's life. Well, this is absolutely a risk to the woman's life. I think we've been seeing a lot of, especially on social media, a lot of back and forth about, well, what about rape? What about incest? What about like my case? And they explain their case and why they should be allowed an abortion. And really, like we are not entitled to any of those stories. Like I'm glad people are feeling comfortable sharing stories like that and why, kind of making their case for abortion and why. But like there's no making a case for abortion. That's the kind of the way I'm seeing it is like you shouldn't have nobody should have to tell their story about if they were raped or whatever and give up their privacy in order to like make a case for their privacy, right? So my opinion on abortion and whether it's right or wrong just doesn't matter because I'm not the person getting the abortion, you're not the person getting the abortion. Unless they are standing with a gun to my head and like about to pull the trigger, then I don't care what you do over there with yourself, with your own body. And you shouldn't care what I do either, because again, this isn't just something that is affecting people with uteruses now, right? Because this is now a slope. It's a very slippery slope, and we are now like very clearly hurtling into everything else. So yes. It was Justice Clarence Thomas that actually said the same day in his concurring opinion, he wrote that the Supreme Court should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell, which is gay marriage, yep. Right? And that affects us.
It's gay marriage and also what is it called? Now it's pills that don't let you have babies.
Contraception. Yeah. Well, so it goes with bedroom privacy, contraceptives, gay marriage. There's all of these different issues that are now up on the table, which is insane to me. It is insane to me that anybody has any sort of say in what I am going to do with my own life, right?
What you're going to do with your body.
Yes, it is not hurting anybody else. What I'm going to do with my body, what marriage I choose to have, it's not hurting anybody.
But we've had gay marriage legalized for what, 7 years now?
And where's the headed now?
Yeah,
where's the headed?
Have we really destroyed marriage at this point? Like everybody said was going to happen. You know, how has this affected other people?
Yeah. Like this has already been a plan that's clearly been in the works for a long time. This has clearly been something that's been worked on for quite a while, and we are absolutely on the hit list. You know, this is the thing is like everybody. There's a lot of people who make the case that it should be like states should have the right to regulate their own laws, right? And I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I only believe that you should be able to like give people more freedoms, right? It's what somebody does with themselves. You're born and you own all of this. You own yourself.
It's a human right, and that's my thing is I don't talk about politics, but that's a human right.
Well, you own and you own yourself, and so I don't understand how there are people telling you what you can and cannot do with yourself if it is not affecting that person. If it's not affecting anybody else, what I don't understand. And so then they're going to start making the case, well, you know, gay marriage should be state by state. That is fucking scary, man, because we do live in Texas, and I know where Texas is going to go with that, right? That shit gets overturned. We're not going to, I don't know what they're going to, like the military, I feel like is going to hold on to, you know, I think they're still providing abortion care for people in the military, right? I think they've announced, they've said that, and I think they would still honor her marriage, but Texas is not going to honor her marriage. Texas is going to like completely roll back on it, and I bet they're getting ready to do that too. And it's infuriating because it just has nothing to do with anybody else. If I am married to you and we are sitting here in our married home, why are other people so concerned about what we're doing in our bedroom and in our house? And like, why are people?
They've even talked about overturning or reenacting like sodomy laws, and I've seen conversations about that everywhere, and where it would be illegal to be gay or do gay acts in certain places, and it's very concerning.
It's just so strange that anybody else is concerned about what you're doing in the privacy of your own home. The right to privacy is in the Constitution. And there's like a bunch of different like sort of, it wasn't clearly outlined in there, which is why courts are having to decide whether this meets
they're like,
that
this isn't
this
what they
that.
meant when they did this.
Exactly.
Which yes, your job as a justice is to interpret the Constitution, interpret the law. However, like, you can't say, hey, yeah, you know, this was supposed to protect our human rights, but not those human rights.
Yeah, it's just like privacy is privacy, and this
crazy.
is my privacy to do what I wish to do in my own life, right? And somebody who decides to have an abortion that is a private thing for them, and it should have nothing to do with anybody else, and no government should be able to interfere in that and interfere in your privacy. You know what the problem is here. This is exactly what the problem is. We don't have separation of church and state, and there's a clear group who is aggressively pushing the Bible more and more and more, if that's even possible, into government. You know, into laws being made. We're about to be like a full Christian nation, and it's wild to me because it's just not. This is not what this country is supposed to be.
I mean, even the week before this, we read through the Texas GOP's agenda that they pushed, and
let's go through some of that, shall we? Okay, the Texas GOP put together their platform for 2022, and that came out just right before the Supreme Court ruling, and they are very, very clear in their intention here. They are not pulling no punches. They are completely going for it. So line 800, homosexuality Homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice. We believe there should be no granting of special legal entitlements or creation of special status or for homosexual behavior, regardless of state of origin, and we oppose any criminal or civil penalties against those who oppose homosexuality out of faith, conviction, or belief in traditional values. No one should be granted special legal status based on their LGBTQ plus identification. Nobody's asking for special treatment and special rights and statuses, right? We are asking to not be discriminated against. We are asking to
We're asking for the same rights as everybody else.
I'm asking for somebody not to be able to kick my ass and kill me in the street and then say, well, it was my religious belief that he was doing the wrong thing with his lifestyle choice, his abnormal lifestyle choice.
We're asking for the ability to, like, if something happens to you medically or something happens to me, to have the right to be in that room and make those kind of decisions. We're asking for the right to be able to file taxes together.
Yeah.
We're asking for we are blessedly married.
Yeah.
And we get benefits from that from the Army. And we wouldn't have that if we weren't allowed to be married.
Yeah. Line 1165, human sexuality. We affirm God's. Remember, this is the GOP platform. This is what they are running on. This is their government, right? Their government plan.
Everybody, they all signed it at the beginning of the book.
We affirm God's biblical design for marriage and sexual behavior between one biological man and one biological woman, which has proven to be the foundation of all great nations in Western civilization. We oppose homosexual marriage regardless of state of origin. We urge the Texas legislature to pass religious liberty protections for individuals, businesses, and government officials who believe marriage is between one man and one woman. We oppose the granting of special legal entitlements or creation of special status for sexual behavior or identity, regardless of state of origin. We oppose any criminal or civil penalties. They're really pushing that one, too. They keep putting that one in there. Line 1182, definition of marriage. We support the definition of marriage as a God-ordained legal and moral covenant between one biological man and one biological woman. Line 1191, nullify unconstitutional ruling. We believe the Obergefell versus Hodges decision overturning the Texas law prohibiting same-sex marriage in Texas has no basis in the Constitution and should be nullified. Like, how much clearer do you get?
Also, in line 1216 through 1218, they talk about in the state of Texas should allow children to be adopted only by married or single heterosexuals. Mm-hmm. And then they also talked about civil rights in here too.
They go through a bunch of stuff. I mean, we're kind of focusing here on gay marriage a little bit because that's just more relevant to us. But we're all under attack, right? Okay, so they're going after abortions and people's right to privacy with that. They're going after gay marriage. They're going
after
if you're trans in Texas. There's nothing for you in Texas. You have nothing. They're
going after mental health.
Mental health. They won't allow you to change your gender. On any sort of legal documents. You know, none of this is shocking though. Reading all of that, it just feels insane to read in 2022, but it's not shocking. I feel like there's this really aggressive group of MAGA that are overtaking the Republican Party and have a very clear. This intention is clear. You know, they're clearly outlining all of this. They're clearly writing all of this out. They're not sugarcoating it. They're not telling you how long were people gaslighting us and saying, oh, it's the law of the land. Gay marriage is the law of the land. Abortion is the law of the land. Nothing's going to happen. We're not going for that. They're not saying that no more. They're absolutely going for that.
They even wrote it out. Abnormal homosexual
lifestyle or whatever the wording was there.
That's what we lead. We lead an abnormal heterosexual lifestyle.
It's just,
homosexual.
It's not shocking, but it is very painful to read because Texas is my home and all of my ties are in Texas. All of my family is in Texas. All of your family's in Texas. Like this is our home. This was absolutely when we first started dating and started, planning our life together. This is the place that we said we were going to end up. We wanted to bounce around a little bit, but we knew that we would probably always, end up in Texas. But
If we don't feel welcome in a place, the thing is, if stuff like this happens, if I don't feel welcome as a gay man,
Yeah.
If we're not able to adopt, if we want to adopt, if we don't have the same rights as our heterosexual peers, then I'm sorry, I don't want to be there. If I'm unwelcome, I don't want to be there.
And I want to fight to stay here. I do want to fight to stay here. I think, voting is there's a lot of conversation about voting and, it being pointless and all of that. But, we still have the privilege of voting. So I still want to do that. And I do want to fight to be here. But, I mean, if it comes to it, my marriage to you is much more important than any tie I have here. And I've had long conversations with my mom, and I've told her I will leave Texas and never come back. I will never step foot back inside this state again. And then you have people going, "Oh, just don't go. We want you to leave. We don't want you to come back." Really, and that's their intention anyway. They don't want us to be here. They're trying to make it very difficult for us to build a happy life here. And if that's what they want, I'm not. If it starts swinging that way, and it's clear that it's unavoidable, then we're gone.
Well, the thing is, if it affects everybody, and I'm even thinking about it right now. We leave Texas, but that doesn't mean that gay people aren't still in Texas.
Yeah,
you still have children.
That's the thing is, like, what are they trying to do? Yeah. Are they trying to, because you can't eradicate gay people? They're there. We
you can't get rid of them.
It's just you're wanting to push people back in the closet, but that's what they believe, right? Is that they can eradicate gay people? They can just get rid of them, and then they're just not going to be gay anymore. But that's not how it is. This is nature.
Well, they even actually touched upon conversion therapy a bit in their statements.
They're completely fine with conversion therapy. But then it comes down to, it's just, where do we go? If we can't be in Texas, if we do have to leave, where do we go? This fucking country's so expensive. I would, I'd love to go to Oregon or something like that, but it's fucking expensive everywhere.
Everything is so expensive.
Everything
nowadays.
Is expensive. It's going to be expensive
Cost
to
of living.
Leave.
And my sister, like I said, I talked to her today. She's, her rent for her apartment. She lives in Austin, went up by $1,500. Mm-hmm. Now she can't afford to live where she's living, so she's having to leave Austin because everything is getting so expensive in all of these places that people who have lived. My sister's lived in Austin for 20 something years.
Yeah,
and now she has to leave because she's being priced out, and this is happening everywhere. Everything our apartment is getting more expensive,
and it's so easy for all the people who are not on this end of the stick, right? To be all the people sitting in liberal states and where everything's fine for them, they're like, "Oh, just leave. You should leave Texas. Just leave." It's not fucking easy. This is not an easy thing, It's possible. It's not impossible. It is very possible, but it's just have a little bit of fucking sympathy for people who are actually being actively pushed out of their homeland, right? Have a little bit of fucking sympathy for that. And I'm a little bit pissed off with how I see people acting and reacting and being everybody, there are people fucking trapped in Texas who will never be able to leave Texas, who come from really big families and they can't, their families rely on their support. Also, that's a lot of Latino communities, have a lot of families who every member of the family are contributing to that household, right? They can't all just pack up and leave.
Well, but they can't. But also, we have to recognize, especially in places like Austin and San Antonio, they are being priced out.
Yeah.
Of their homes.
They're still being priced out, but they can't leave Texas. So no. where the fuck do they go? They're going to even worse neighborhoods. They just move
to smaller towns.
Yeah, exactly.
Places.
It's just we're in this hellhole right now. We're in the hellscape. This country is in this hellscape right now, where there is no comfortable option. Unless you're on that side, and they're
unless you're wealthy, heterosexual, cisgendered, and white, then
who's not gonna have no problems with abortions, right? All the politicians and their families.
Whereas if you're in a low income family in Texas, you don't afford the time or the money to send your daughter or somebody who has a uterus, who has a womb outside of Texas to get the procedure.
But even if you do, doing that could be against the law based on your state. You could, by crossing state lines and going and getting an abortion, you could come back and be charged with something. by doing that, right? And then you have people saying, well, maybe you should just abstain. You shouldn't have to have sex. Just don't have sex. Sex is not a bad thing. I spent a lot of time really thinking that sex was a really bad thing, and it's not a bad thing. Be safe. Like it's very easy to be safe and to practice safe sex, but sex is not a bad thing. And sometimes contraceptives just don't work. That does happen where contraceptive won't work, and it is not anybody else's business whether somebody has a baby or not. It does not matter if you believe that abortion is right or wrong, because it is. If you think abortion is wrong, don't have an abortion. If you think gay marriage is wrong, don't get married to a gay person.
What I also want to make just a clarification that yes, our opinions don't matter, not because we're men, but because our sexual organs aren't for that, right?
Not even just that. Not even just that.
If you're a womb having person, this affects you.
It's not even just that. It's just the fact of a single person's privacy, right? Like, this does have an effect on everybody, because everybody has the right to have the privacy to do with themselves what they choose and what is the best option that they believe is the best option for themselves, right? It does not matter to me if somebody else goes and gets an abortion. I just won't have an abortion. I won't have an abortion. I think that's pretty easy. It's just, what else? Just before we go, why all this is hurting? Because it does hurt, This overturning Roe v. Wade hurts. The impending overturning of Obergefell hurts. And you know why it hurts? Is because my family, extended family, members of my family, they will vote red no matter what. It does not matter, right? They may not, they don't give a shit if I'm married to a guy. They don't give a shit if I'm married to you. They like you. They don't give a shit, but they will never be aligned with the left. They will never be aligned. They will never be called a liberal. Nothing. They fucking drive their car off a bridge before
they'd get rid of all their trucks.
Before they're called a liberal. And so they're going to vote red, no matter what, even if it means taking away, So a lot of my family really preaches the importance of family, looking out for your family, and you don't go against the family, and you look out for your family, and you take care of your family. But, I have a feeling politics is not going to, that rule is not going to extend beyond politics. Politics comes first. You got to vote red no matter who, right? The gas price is going up. Well, that's why we voted red. I'm sorry you lost your marriage.
I know, we just need to have a bit more empathy.
It's just sad, and it does hurt, because these are people I like, but these are people I have a feeling it's not going to end well with these sorts of relationships that I have, and your family as well. You've got a lot of red in your families as well.
Yeah, both my parents are very red, very much Fox News watchers, but not all my family is like that.
I just wish, I think where I stand on everything, I may not be the smartest when it comes to politics and all that, but I know one thing, and I know that live and let live is a really good mantra to go by, right? I think you do what you want with your life, as long as it ain't affecting me, and as long as it isn't, gonna hurt me actively. Yeah. I don't care what you do, right? Go do whatever you want. If it's not hurting anybody, go do what you want. Go live your life. Go be happy. Why are people making themselves so miserable and unhappy by worrying about what I'm doing in my life? Why are you stressing yourself out, making yourself red in the face when a woman talks about she's gonna get an abortion, right? It doesn't have nothing to do with you. Go live your happy life. Go be happy, because you're not happy. Go be happy, and I will do that as well. I won't worry about you, okay? If you need help, I will help you. If you need some milk, come to my door and I'll give you some milk, right? But you're gonna have to come to my gay door and knock on my gay door and ask for some milk, I think there was a perfect clip from the Young Turks where she says, I will, fight for your religious freedom. I believe in that. I believe in your religious freedom, but Because you believe in the Bible doesn't mean everybody else believes in the Bible. And so we are not all going to live our lives by the Bible, you know? I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe Jesus is the Savior, all of that. Church and state, that's a separation. We need to have that for a reason because not everybody subscribes to the same beliefs. They just don't. And just go live your life in your house. Go read the Bible. Go to church on Sunday. Go read it, on your own. Be happy. And if I don't want to read the Bible in my house, I don't fucking have to.
If you don't want to live by those rules, you can make up your own rules as long as they don't affect anybody else.
Yeah.
As long as you are being safe, as long as you are thinking about others. The thing is, like, I think it's still a question of empathy, and people are very much think about it in their own mindset. And for a lot of people, it seems like they're pursuing this like they view civil rights, or they view marriage equality as somehow making their marriage or who they are lesser than
I just don't understand it. Like, why is it? What about it is affecting you? Honestly, what about it?
Because they don't get to be the top dog anymore.
Well, so I have seen people say, well, we don't want our tax dollars going towards abortions because we don't believe in that. Okay, but that's not. Now everything's overturned and people can't get abortions at all. So like there was no middle ground there. It was like one or the other, and now nobody, people's right to privacy is being taken away left and right. And there is no conversation about whether tax dollars should pay for abortions or not. Like, you're not even allowing for that conversation because you've just taken it all away already, right? Like, states should not regulate and put penalties and regulations on how people are living their lives. If anything, states should just make life more free. The freedom to pursue life, liberty, or the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Isn't that what it is?
Yep.
Isn't that what it is? So then why are we taking that away from people? I don't get it. It is not computing to me why people are so invested in how others are living their lives. Why? If a man wants to go and marry a 13-year-old girl, it affects her. So I said, you thought I was going somewhere else with it. His eyebrows raised. It affects her. Right? So we don't allow that. We don't allow that because it's affecting somebody else, right? I'm married to you. You're consenting. I'm consenting. We're both old enough to consent. It has nothing to do with anybody else, right? Nobody's going to hurt from this.
Exactly.
That's your parameter right there. Is it going to hurt somebody?
I didn't expect you to bring Elvis back into the equation.
There you go. Oh my gosh, we did, didn't we? Oh, it all goes back in a circle. But it just is. It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. And it feels like there's no talking to each other anymore. There's no coming up with solutions and compromises that suit everybody and that create, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're just like, are we just straying that far from it now?
And we're a week from the 4th of July, too. So
oh, goodness. There we go.
It's an interesting time to do this.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even going home for 4th of July because I just can't be around. I can't be around everybody knowing that they're going to vote a specific way. That's going to be harmful to me. The way they're going to vote is going to hurt me. It's going to hurt me. Like that's affecting somebody else. I think we should take those rights away. Oh my goodness, it was a long-winded conversation. Is there anything you want to add, baby?
I just want to say that I hope everybody's having despite all of this, I hope that everybody's week goes amazingly, and that you all take care of yourselves.
If you can go out, we had a protest in El Paso when this whole thing happened, the Friday night. If you can go out, if you can support protests, do that. If you can donate to anything, don't donate to the text messages that are saying you can't get an abortion. Donate $15 to the Biden campaign. Fuck that. But there's other places you can get it. You can donate your money to.
I saw that. I was like, it felt dirty.
But that's politicians, right? That's exactly who politicians are. They all do it. They all do it exactly the same. Support how you can. Really, care about other people and let them live their lives. And if you don't agree with the way they're living their life, keep them. You don't have to.
Then you don't have to live your life that way.
You don't have to be there. And baby, I'm very happy to be married to you, and our marriage is the proudest thing that I have.
Really?
This is the proudest thing that I have, right? And Brando can vote to take away our rights, but we will always be married in our hearts.
No, I really appreciate all the rights that we have.
Yeah.
Being married. And the thing is, like, I didn't realize how important marriage was to me until we were able to get married. So I'm very, very, very thankful for those who came before us and were able to blaze a trail for us to have these rights. And I want to keep them.
Yes. We're going to fight to keep them.
Because if we're suddenly unmarried, I'd be very upset.
Yeah.
We'd have to move to Ireland or something.
Ireland. There's going to be states here, but we're not going to be able to afford to live in them. And then we move our cups. That was a fantastic episode, y'all. We're so happy that you sat through this whole morning show with us. We hope we've started out your day pretty well. That you've started out your day well with us. And
I think this is my favorite episode to date, honestly.
It was a dark episode. I mean, it was a dark episode. It's going to be dark. So we're really fighting, guys. We're really fighting. Okay, we got a long way to go apparently because we just keep backsliding. But we hope we can provide you guys a little bit of just a little break from everything that's going on in the actual world on Friday. What are we going to be doing on Friday? What story are we doing? We have
a couple that we have to choose from.
Yeah. I don't know. We were talking about Dog Day Afternoon. And I'd kind of like to do that, but...
Yeah. Dog Day Afternoon seems very interesting to me to cover, but we'll see what happens.
We will see. And as always, if you guys enjoyed the episode, you can make sure to go give us a review on Apple, Spotify, on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Let us know all your thoughts, constructive criticism, comments on the hot topics, on the movies, any of it. Give us a like. It really helps us out. Kind of pushes us out there. And
also, we have started a TikTok, guys.
Oh goodness, here it comes.
TikTok at Coffee and Tequila Show, if you want to check that out. So we're going to be posting clips, and then we'll also have videos that aren't available, on the podcast anyways. So you could just check those out. We also have an Instagram if people want to follow us on Instagram and get updates, and we have a Facebook page.
It's Coffee and Tequila Show and everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Coffee and Tequila Show and everything.
So it's pretty uniform across the board.
Join our community.
You are the TikTok expert, so I'm taking his lead on everything TikTok, and it is going to be a journey. I don't know. I'm not a TikToker. I'm not there.
Well, you have excellent work ethic. And I feel like that's going to translate really well to TikTok.
Maybe, possibly. Yeah. I guess we'll see. But yeah, go follow us over on there on Instagram. We're Coffee and Tequila Show and everything. We will see you guys on Friday for the late show. And I hope you have a fantastic week.
Adios.